Okay, today we are playing a game on the Horizon Lunar Colony. We are playing Moira on attack and Soldier on defense, and the average SR of this game was 1,937. And our current team composition is Reinhardt, Zarya, McCree, Soldier 76, Hanzo, and Moira. So I will preface what I'm going to say right now with don't worry about your team comp in this kind of SR range, because team comp doesn't really matter until you get into higher SR, because in low SR, people don't know how to play their hero correctly anyway, so team comp matters significantly less because the team comp doesn't function as it's supposed to anyway. So just bear that in mind before I say what I'm going to say now. So our team comp is currently bad because we don't have a second healer, which is sad, but is not the end of the world. But our only healer is not Mercy, which is just really sad right now, because Mercy is really strong. Like, if you're gonna solo heal, in general, I don't recommend picking Moira. She can solo heal, but it's very difficult, and your team is likely to tilt from the fact you're even trying. So, I've done it. You can solo heal as Moira, it's just really hard. Like, I don't recommend doing it until you're already pretty confident with the hero, and even then, honestly, like, just pick Mercy, because she's really strong anyway. But also, low SR, don't worry about your team comp that much. It doesn't matter, because people don't know how to play their heroes correctly anyway. The only thing you should worry about team comp-wise in lower SR is that your team has a healer on it. That's the only thing that matters. Doesn't matter if you have no tanks, you got 5 DPS. Like, as long as you've got a healer, that's the only thing that matters in low SR. Even in high SR, a healer. You need a healer. That's like really the only mandatory part of the team comp. Because if you don't have a healer, you just die. Has to be a main healer as well. Like, it has to be Mercy, Moira, or Anna. Lucio or Zenyatta won't do it. So that's all you should worry about. Don't worry about anything else. And like, team comp doesn't matter until higher SR. So let's start the game. Apologies also, there is no sound in this replay, so you will just have to listen to me and you will just have to like it. So, we are playing Moira. So Moira's a really good hero. Let's talk about Moira. So, we do have to solo heal as Moira. So we have to be, like, really careful with our resource. Like, if we get in here with the Zarya, like, don't just hold left click on her. Because, like, as soon as we cross this area, Zarya's not going to get killed anymore. At this point, you can start just letting the health regen and her shield regen deal with it, rather than you just holding left click on her. Because we have to be really careful with our resource, because we're the only healer. So we fade forward aggressively to try and kill this Pharah, which I'm totally fine with. I think in general, people are too afraid to fade forward, but you can do so, and this Pharah is out of position, so we can punish her. This is the kind of position where I would chuck my damage orb up this wall at the Pharah. And the reason for that, like, you don't usually want to chuck the damage orb at one person unless you're in a duel with somebody. Because then, you know, you can bounce it in the room around with a Genji and kill the Genji. But this Pharah's mostly dead, and she's trying to get out of the way. I just want to make sure she dies in this position. So I just chuck the damage orb at her, because Moira baseline does 50 damage per second. This Pharah's at half health, so it's going to take us 2 seconds to kill her. If we throw the orb at her, that also does 50 damage a second, so we have the time it's going to take to kill the Pharah. And I just want to make sure she doesn't get to this window and get to safety, which is what happens. She dies anyway. Like, she does die anyway, right here. But I would chuck my orb up the wall at that Pharah, because I just don't want to even give her the opportunity to try and escape. Because she was out of position, and I want to make sure she dies. Even if it's not necessarily the most efficient use of the orb, like, overall, killing someone is really strong. There's also another reason to kill Pharah before she gets to the window. And that's where her soul is going to land, which is a weird way to think about it. But if we kill her out here, her soul lands on the catwalk next to us, and Mercy can't realistically get to this Pharah to res her anymore. Like, it might just be flat out impossible, because she probably can't even get line of sight to the soul to come up here. Whereas, we kill her in here, she's on the point, Mercy can res the Pharah in there. If we kill her up there, Mercy can't even try to do that. So, even though we kill her anyway, which, you know, it's like, alright, we killed her anyway, it kind of doesn't matter. It does actually matter, because we have to account for the fact Mercy can res Pharah in there. Mercy can't res Pharah on the catwalk. So, Mercy does, in fact, res the Pharah, which is very sad. And now we're low HP, so we have to use the orb to heal ourselves. This is just what's going to happen every now and then when you're the only healer. So this is not okay. We shouldn't do this, and we should die for it. Either we should die or they should die, because we just left both our tanks behind with no healer. And one of them was in critical HP when we left. Now they're both in critical HP and they can't be healed. We shouldn't have done this. This is like a play that's purely like, I want to do damage, but what they should just do is collapse on you or collapse on them, because either way, they'll kill one side. They don't do that, we win the fight, right? So that kind of makes it seem like it was okay. It wasn't okay that we did that. We weren't allowed to do that, and we should have gotten punished for it, but we didn't because we're in Silver SR, right? But almost Gold SR. But, we didn't get punished for it. We should have gotten punished for that. We're not allowed to do that. That's purely I want to do damage, so I'm going to go on the other side of the Reinhardt shield. But, you should die or they should die. Either way, one of them should die. And, even if you're low on resource and you can't really heal the tanks, just think about what the other team can think. The other team can think, oh, their healer just left the 2 tanks behind. So now, let's just, collapse on the 2 tanks or collapse on the Moira, right? They don't know that you have no resource, right? So that can affect how they play if they suddenly see you split off on your own. But just baseline, they should just collapse on one side, because that's how you deal with, a pincer maneuver kind of thing. You just collapse on one side as hard as you can, because that side's at a numbers disadvantage. But they don't punish us. We get away with it. So, but we should not have done that. That was not a legal maneuver. So we've killed Pharah with our damage orb, which always feels good. Pharah wasn't allowed to be doing what she was doing, and so she died. We are now going to begin playing on Horizon. And by that I mean we will fight for this checkpoint for the next 6 minutes. And we will not capture it, because it is a true CP map. Again, we are playing way too aggressive. We are the only healer, right? We can't do this. We shouldn't do this kind of play in general as Moira, because Moira, don't forget, you're playing a support, right? Don't forget you're playing a support. When you're playing a support, your number one priority is healing. Doing damage comes after that. So, you shouldn't do this anyway as Moira. You're meant to just sit with your team and, do damage and heal people. You're not meant to try and do, this. Because Moira's not good at flanking people. Moira doesn't do that much damage, right? She does. At the end of the game, you can have gold damage. Yeah, that's not unreasonable at the end of the game. Moira herself doesn't put out huge numbers immediately. It's sort of a gradual thing that builds over time. You flanking someone is extraordinarily low impact, because Moira herself has very low actual kill potential. Because her right click does 50 damage per second. So baseline, that takes 4 seconds to kill a 200 health hero. If you use the orb, it takes 2 seconds, provided you can get it to, it has to hover on the person for 2 seconds though as well, because the orb would have to do 200 damage. Moira herself doesn't have an incredible kill potential. Right, so that's one reason to not do it. The other reason is you're just not really made to do so. Because, Fade is a fantastic ability. It's a 6-second movement ability that makes you invulnerable while you're doing it. That's incredible. But, and the obvious comparison is Winston. Winston's jump is also 6 seconds. Here's the thing, though. Moira doesn't have Winston's health, and she doesn't have Winston's shield. You're so fragile that if you fade in, you can just get killed. You can fade aggressively. I think in general, Moira players are afraid to fade aggressively to try and, seal a kill on someone, but you have to be really sure why you're doing it. You can't just, fade behind the enemy team, I'm gonna make plays, because, you'll die. You will probably not kill anyone, and you will probably die, unless they really fuck up. But any play that revolves around the enemy team playing badly is a bad play in and of itself. You should always assume the enemy team is gonna do what they should be doing. That right there, just a fade for no reason, because we're not gonna go in on that Torbjorn, because, he's right next to his entire team, so, don't use fade for just, no reason at all. Because, 6 seconds is really low, but, it's long enough that you can get punished for it. So we dive really aggressively on this Zenyatta. I would not actually be that bothered about this play because he is up there by himself. The reason that I am bothered about the play is because we know Zenyatta has armor. Because we already saw him with armor earlier, and just he has a Torbjorn with him. The armor damage reduction applies through shields as well. Because armor goes under the shield, but then the damage reduction applies to the shields itself. I've heard conflicting information on that, but, like, I've heard more people say that it works with the shields as well. So, like, I'm going to assume that that's what it does do. And I've not tested this because I'm not a fucking nerd, but, like, when I'm playing Winston and I'm tasing a dude that's got armor under his shields, I'm like, this is actually the worst thing in the universe. Like, we know he has armor, and armor in general is, like, most effective against a hero that does a little bit of damage over an extended period of time, which is what Moira does. So, even though Zenyatta is by himself, he's currently got 275 hit points, with which he will reduce our damage. So, it takes us 4 seconds baseline. Suddenly, it's going to take an extra 2 seconds. Well, it's going to take an extra second and a half, because he's got 50 HP and then another 25. Right, so it's going to take 5.5 seconds baseline to kill Zenyatta. But then there's damage reduction, which is just an unquantifiable amount of time, because I don't know the exact math on that. But, like, 5.5 seconds by itself is really fucking long, right? Like, we can't do that. Like, if we can get on the Zenyatta while he's in that room and then, like, bounce the orb around on him and drain him, like, yeah, okay. We can probably kill him. Like, I don't actually have any issue with the maneuver itself, because, like, Zenyatta was by himself up here. And if he is just baseline Zenyatta, we can kill him. Maybe get him to pop his ult if nothing else, right? Because we can kill a Zenyatta. A Zenyatta with 275 hit points. No, we can't do that. That's not feasible. So, we shouldn't have done that. So we are now just going to immediately use our ultimate. I have no issue with this, because you do want to use Coalescence as much as possible, and I use it, like, right at the start of a fight all the time, or, like, right before a fight has started, and then the team can go in with Coalescence. Coalescence lasts a fucking long time, so you can, like, pop it really early. We shouldn't jump off the high ground to do so, though, because Moira is very vulnerable while using Coalescence. It is one of those ultimates that makes you feel like a god, and that you're invulnerable, but you're really not. So, you have to be really careful about what you're going to do in Coalescence, because you can just suddenly die while you're using Coalescence. And it has a 30-meter range, right? Like, 30 meters is fucking insane. Like, that is a ridiculous length. You don't have to be really close to people. You can just laser them from up on the high ground. That's perfectly fine. And ideally, you would be in a position where you can heal your team with it and do damage at the same time, because you're looking to get... You know, Moira's a hero about trying to get as much efficiency as possible. Ideally, you'd be healing and doing damage. If you're just going in with it, you can't do the healing part of it, right? So here, don't chuck the orb at that guy. Moira is bad at healing people on high ground. This high ground is pretty tame. You can just, like, sprinkle him. Like, just jump up, spray him a little bit, and he'll heal back up. There's no need to use the orb on it, because you're just using the orb to heal, like, 30 damage, and that's, like, a terrible use of company resources. So, by the time we get here, it's already too late. Like... So the thing is, why do we fade in this direction, right? Like, why do we fade at all, really? Because all that's happening is we're getting shot at by a Torbjorn turret. Maybe we're like, alright, Discord Orb's kind of scary. Why do we fade this way, though? There's no cover over here. If we're gonna fade behind the Moonlander, because you just fade over this way, you fade out into openness, and then McCree's like, her fade is fucking down, and she's out in the middle of nowhere. She's fucking dead. If you're gonna fade into cover. Don't fade out into the open, because then... you die, like we do right there. So, Zarya's got Transcendence. We don't have Coalescence. That's very sad, because that's it's an okay combo. Coalescence doesn't do ridiculous enough damage by itself to, like, win the combo. But it feels good, all the same. So our team has now decided that we're just going to try and, like, walk in the middle, but then some of our team decide they want to go left, you know? Don't, like, peek through the Reinhardt shield. There's no need to do so. You're a really long-range hero. Like, your right click has a 20-meter range, which is pretty insane in and of itself. Our team's dead. Just leave. Yeah. Our team just died, so there's not much you can do about that one. Try and drain the Pharah. We're not gonna get her. She's dead. Like, don't even bother. Looked like we forgot there was a window in that, oh, no. I thought she was on the other side for some reason. I thought she was on the other side of that window. I'm stupid. No, don't worry. It's okay. I'm stupid. Then she just goes and dies anyway. And now she dies at a worse time, because our team is starting to reinforce right as she dies. So now the infinite cycle of staggering is likely to engage, because we are, of course, in Silver SR. Almost Gold SR, but we're in Silver SR right now. So, our team remarkably doesn't just immediately stagger themselves. And, don't expose yourself. Like, you can't, there's nobody here to heal you. So you have to be really careful that you don't take damage. Just, like, stay further back. Like, don't... Stay behind Reinhardt's shield. Or behind a wall. Or, like, near a wall. Don't just, like, float out into open space, because we can't... Like, nobody here is here to heal us. So, like, we have to be really careful we don't get fucked. So the benefit of Zarya dying is that we did actually have enough time to build up our ultimate before she used Graviton. However, it was not enough. And then, you know, by the time we see McCree, it's already too late. It might not be too late if we try to go for the beam instead of the wall behind us. We might get out of the way. Don't bait yourself into thinking that you can kill McCree before he uses Deadeye. No, he will kill you before you finish killing him with Coalescence. If your team helps you kill him, that's another issue. But don't think that you'll kill the McCree before he kills you. You won't. I've tried. Doesn't work. If we get behind the beam, we maybe get behind the beam in time. That's like it. You know, by the time you see him, otherwise it's already too late. Maybe you can get behind the beam, but honestly, like, shit's fucked anyway by that point. So our team at this point is starting to split up. We try to switch with our soldier or our McCree. That doesn't work until we're on the defending side, in which case then we get to switch. That is where we will enter the soldier portion of the replay, which is significantly shorter than the Moira part of the replay. Don't worry, this video isn't 11 minutes long. It's split into 2 videos, by the way. Second video is really short, though. So yeah, we're missing Reinhardt right now. It's not great. We're getting, we don't really want, like, don't try not to hang around in a confined space while you're fighting Farah, because she can just, like, shoot through the doorway and really fuck you up. So our team's really split up right now. This is terrible for us, because this is also terrible, obviously. The fact our team is splitting up is really terrible for us as Moira, though, because we're already going to have trouble solo healing these people as Moira, because that's just difficult. But now they're also making it more difficult by, like, 2 people over here, 2 people over there, 1 person over there. So, like, oh, why, you know? It's the kind of situation where we'll probably end up having to throw more healing orbs just to, like, get, like, we're healing that side while we're healing this side. This is, like, the point where, if you haven't, like, honestly, I find that 2 CP maps are this way, where if you had, like, 6 minutes to try and capture the second checkpoint, if, like, 4 minutes pass and you don't capture it, you're probably not gonna capture it, because by that point, your team has tilted. Like, you have probably failed to push at least 4 times, probably more. Like, in the worst case scenario, where, like, massive staggering has happened, you have failed to push and capture the point, like, 4 times. At least. So, by that point, your team is just really tilted, so I find you are not very likely to capture the point on a 2 CP map if you had, like, 6 minutes when you got there and you don't capture it after that period of time. We get over 50%, and when things are starting to look good, things start looking bad again, because Roadhog's over there. Okay, he was doing his own thing. He died. Now we're gonna die. Yeah. Like, that was the best we got. We got it over 30%, so at least, like, honestly, getting it over 33% on a 2 CP map I will consider a win, because then, even if they capture the first point really quickly, which, you know, can happen quite easily on a 2 CP map, at least you still have the possibility of winning, right? Because the worst feeling in the world is they capture the first checkpoint really easily, and then you have to spend, like, 6.5 minutes stalling out to try and draw in the absolute best case scenario, right? Now, that feels terrible. But yeah, we're fucked. Man, if you got a lot of time to capture the second checkpoint and you don't capture it after like 4 minutes, you aren't capturing it. Your team is too tilted by that point. We're a little tilted as well, as we can see right there. There's quite probably provoked by I'm going to perform the video switch right now, because by the time the setting up period ends, like, the video is basically over. So we're just going to switch over now. This was probably prompted by the fact that we had gold eliminations as Moira, and, like, one of the damage medals. That's not unexpected. Moira gets really high. I've yet to play a single game as Moira where I didn't end with gold eliminations. Like, I've played a lot of Moira games. It's just really easy to get gold eliminations as Moira. Because you just throw the damage orb in, and you touch everyone a little bit, so you will always get an elimination. Like, you're always getting eliminations in the middle of a team fight. Then you use Coalescence, you win the team fight, you got 6 eliminations. Like, it's not hard to get gold eliminations as Moira. It's also not hard to get, like, a damage medal. You might not get the gold medal every game, but, like, you're gonna get a damage medal in most cases, because you just do, like, a lot of consistent damage over the period of the game. It's low damage overall, but it adds up over time. So, like, if you got, like, gold medals as Moira, like, That's not surprising. Doesn't mean your DPS were necessarily bad. You're just playing Moira. Like, Moira ends... Like, gold eliminations is so easy to get. If you're just using your damage orb, like, on cooldown, you're gonna get gold eliminations. Bare minimum, you're gonna get, like, silver or bronze. Like, it's just so easy. In general, the DPS are the easiest people to blame, because, especially if you're playing a tank or a healer, like, the DPS are gonna be the ones that get blamed, because, tank and healer players, generally feel like they have really low agency over the game. And I mean, this is kind of true. Healers have the least agency, generally, because they, have the least ability to interact directly with the game, because they have to spend a lot of time healing. Like, Mercy, doesn't get to have that much direct input in the game herself, so it can be hard to carry as Mercy. Valkyrie makes it easy, but, in general, DPS are going to be the ones that get it, because you see things not dying on the enemy team, and you think, oh, the DPS are just not killing anything. The reality is usually more complicated than that. Like, the issue is not usually just that the DPS are really bad, right? Like, that can be the issue. I'm not saying that's never the issue, but it's usually more complicated than that, because it's very common for, like, a Zenyatta player to go, I've got eliminations. I've got gold eliminations. I've got, like, silver dance. What the fuck, DPS? You're playing a DPS. Like, Zenyatta is a DPS hero, right? Like, your healing is you set it and you forget it, and then you're doing damage the entire rest of the time, right? Like, that's not weird. When a Zenyatta player goes, I've got gold eliminations, what the fuck? I go, you're playing a DPS. Like, you're playing a DPS hero right now. Why are you surprised you have gold eliminations? But their DPS, no, your DPS, right? Like, you put your healing orb on someone, and then that's it. The entire rest of the time, you're shooting people. You're playing a DPS who happens to have a healing ability. Anyway, and then, like, the Reinhardt player goes, I've got gold eliminations and gold damage, what the fuck? You're trying to play a DPS. Like, you're not meant to be doing that. If you got gold eliminations, and, like, you shouldn't. You should not have gold eliminations. I play a lot of Reinhardt. I do a lot of damage. I still don't end the game with a fucking gold eliminations or anything, right? Like, I'm lucky if I get bronze, because I spend a lot of time blocking for people, because that's Reinhardt's job. I hate it. I also hate that when the Reinhardt goes, I got gold eliminations, gold damage. What the fuck, DPS? Play a tank. Maybe, if we had a tank, right? Instead of just instead of a melee DPS, maybe our DPS would be doing more damage than you. Because maybe you wouldn't be just charging into people and committing suicide. Maybe you'd be making space for your soldier, and then soldier would actually do damage, right? Instead of getting killed. Like, I in general, really hate when people go. Like, there are people I hate. Reinhardt and Zenyatta are the ones that really upset me. Moira also really upsets me when they go, like, gold medals, what the fuck? They really upset me when they do that. I'm like, Moira, Zenyatta, that's not surprising, okay? Like, chill out. When Reinhardt has it, Reinhardt's bad. But, like, I hate when people go useless DPS, because the issue is usually more complicated than that, right? It's usually not just the DPS are bad. It's usually, like, the tank is not playing a fucking tank, right? Or, like, it can be, like, the Ana is like, I've got fucking gold eliminations. Maybe you should try playing a healer, right? Like, maybe you should try playing a support instead. It's very rarely, I find, is the issue actually that the DPS are just useless. As you can see, this is something I'm very passionate about, because I've just stopped to complain about it for, like, 20 minutes, right? I hate it, because it is never that simple, right? Like, sometimes it is. Sometimes your DPS are like, I'm gonna pick Sombra, and I'm gonna pick Widowmaker, but I can't actually hit anything, right? And then, like, okay, yeah, then your DPS are actually useless, right? You got a sniper who can't hit anything, and Sombra's, like, actually a support hero. So, okay, fair enough. But, like, usually, like, 9 times out of 10, the DPS is probably fine. The issue is usually more complicated than that, right? Like, it's very rarely just, they're bad. It's usually like, the tank is not doing something. The healer is, like, constantly out of position and getting killed. The tanks are not actually tanking. The enemy team might also, believe it or not, right? Like, hold on. I'm about to blow your fucking mind with this one. Sometimes the enemy team can just be better than you. right? Like, real fucking talk. Sometimes everyone on your team is good, but the enemy team is still better, right? Like, just because you're losing doesn't mean you or the people on your team are bad. It can just mean the enemy team are better than you, right? Like, astonishingly enough, this skill is relative like that, right? And it varies from person to person and team to team. I know, astonishing, right? The enemy team might just be better than us. Whoa. Fucking hell. Now how am I going to e-bully the Genji, though, if I think about that? I know, incredible, isn't it? It's like, as soon as the team starts losing, they go, oh, Soldier's throwing. Why? Because I have gold damage. You can just, like, doesn't mean he's throwing. You can be bad without throwing. It's not enough for these people. It's not enough for the person to just be bad. The person has to be actively sabotaging them, right? The team can't just be bad. They're always trolling, or they're always throwing. It's not enough for these people. They can't just go, he's bad. No, he's actively sabotaging me. Oh, because you're so fucking important, aren't you? Oh god, you're just so important. The soldier's throwing because he's throwing the game for you, and that's why you can't climb. He could just be bad. No! He's sabotaging me. Blizzard's also sabotaging me by putting me with these scrubs. I hate the Overwatch community. So let's start this replay again. That we were here to talk about, and I stopped talking for like 7 minutes about that one. Oh, good talk. Good talk, team. Okay. So we are standing really far up right now. Like, it's not the end of the world to stand, like, that's actually pretty good. Like, really, really surprising to kill a Pharah through the Mercy healing her, but she's alive again now. So, Mercy, right? So, like, it's not, you know, you can stand up on the high ground. That's kind of whatever. But, like, it's really easy to get killed on this high ground, as seen right here. So, you have to position so that you can retreat more easily. Like, you have to be closer to your team so that, like, you can run away if you need to. Because if you just get caught on the other side of the catwalk and you're playing, like, Soldier or McCree, you're gonna die before you can get back. So, like, you have to account for the fact it is really easy to die on that high ground, and you have to be, like, willing to give it up. We did get to kill the Pharah, which felt good. Here's the Pharah. In general, I don't really like to talk about aiming, but, like, chill. It's just like aiming really calmly, and then you'll, like, get kind of, like, flustered on it, like, right at the end as we're about to kill her, and then, like, we kind of regain our composure. Just, like, chill, right? Like, don't get too excited as somebody's getting low HP. This is not allowed. Like, we're really feeling it, Mr. Krabs, and we just, like, jumped out into the middle right there. Like, try not to ever stand in the area, like, right in front of the point on horizon, because, like, that's no man's land. It's so easy to die out there. Don't go out there. Like, don't. Going down that staircase? No. That's bad times. That's a bad place out there. It's so easy to die. So, it's a very spooky situation, isn't it? Where two Moira orbs are touching us at the same time. Yes, I see. So they have a Genji, you know. Alright, so Genji's dead now, because we hit him with the Helix Rocket, which feels good. He just deflected Moira's orb, so he couldn't have it yet, so basically dead. Again, we're, like, really feeling it. Like, we keep going into these people that we're shooting at. Like, if you're, like, we don't get punished for it. Like, you should get punished for this. Like, and we're getting punished for it right now, but, like, not fully, right? Like, we should just die for this, but the enemy team doesn't actually, like, they aren't good enough to fully punish us for it. Like, we shouldn't have done that. We should have died for that. Like, when you're playing Soldier is a very long-range hero. Soldier is meant to be as far away from the enemy team as possible. You don't really ever want to be advancing into the enemy team. I don't really recommend doing that. This is basically flanking a Soldier. I don't recommend doing this either, because Soldier's not a flanker. Like, it's really tame, but, like, I still don't recommend it. Like, we've got no patience is basically what I'm seeing from playing Soldier, and basically also what I got from Moira as well. Like, we want to go out there and we want to make the plays, and we're, like, always running around trying to do something. Like, Soldier's a long-range hero. The thing that you're meant to do is you're just meant to sit really far away from the enemy team. We use our biotic field for no reason there. We're like full HP and we're going to immediately leave it behind. It's a really long cooldown. You don't want to use it for no reason. And you don't want to leave it behind immediately after you put it down. Soldier's a long-range hero. Like, you're meant to sit really far back, be really safe, and just threaten a huge area, because Soldier's zone of threat is his entire line of sight, basically. Like, you're meant to just sit really far back, preferably up on high ground, and just threaten people. Like this right here. Like, we shouldn't get away with this. There's like a bunch of things in this game we shouldn't get away with. Like, you should never advance into McCree as Soldier because he's gonna kill you because he has flashbang. Like, we don't die right there, but we should have. Like, that's something we should get punished for, and we just didn't get punished for. And I think this is a point of, like, why people feel frustrated, especially as they get, like, start to climb a little bit. Is that, like, you know, you do things like this. Like, we shouldn't be doing this. Like, we should die for this. Like, we just don't get punished for it. But, like, this is what happens when people start to climb, is, like, they were doing things like this, and then suddenly things like this don't work. And then that starts to frustrate people, because they're like, well, this isn't working, what am I supposed to do? Like, this isn't what you're meant to do, this isn't how you play Soldier. Like, even what we do here is, like, we immediately jump off the high ground with tac visor, like, you don't want to do, and we're advancing into the Soldier again, and we're advancing into the tanks, and we, like, get away with it again, but we shouldn't, we should die for this. Like, we do a lot of things in this game that we should get punished for, and we don't get punished for. Like, we're not playing Soldier like Soldier right now. We're trying to play like fucking Reaper or some shit, right? Like, we're picking Soldier. We want to play Soldier. What does Soldier do? Soldier sits really far back, and he just threatens this huge area, and, like, preferably from high ground, and you just, like, do really consistent damage to people as they try and push in. Like, we aren't trying to play Soldier in this game. We're trying to play, like, a flanker, and we're trying to play, like, Reaper or some shit, where we just keep running at people, like, let's fucking fight. And, like, we're trying to flank as Moira, basically. Like, yeah, okay, we get to play the game for it. It feels good. We didn't get punished. Like, you should get punished for this. But we didn't get punished. Like, the thing that stands out the most in this game is just we're way too aggressive on, like, both heroes that we play. Because, like, neither hero is this aggressive. Like, Moira is more aggressive than Soldier, yeah, but, like, Moira's not that aggressive, right? Like, yeah, you can fade forward aggressively in situations, but you need to really know why you're doing it. You can't just do it for the sake of it, right? And, like, Moira is terrible at flanking. You don't ever want to be flanking as Moira, because she has such low kill potential, and she's, like, quite fragile. Like, when Fade is on cooldown, it's really easy to kill Moira, because she can't use Fade. Like, Fade is why she is so survivable, really. Like, we play so aggressively. Like, you play Soldier, you're meant to just sit really far back, pressure a giant area, and apply, and just, like, kill people as they come into it. And, like, if they ignore you, you kill them. And, like, you are hard to dislodge, because you're really far away, so you're hard to get to. And you've got self-healing. So, like, you're pretty independent as a result. And certain people, if they dive on you, you're just not afraid of them. Like, if a Winston jumps on you, you can just put your biotic field down, walk into the Winston and kill him, right? Like, if D.Va jumps on you, you can just put your biotic field down and dance around the D.Va. Like, you're not meant to, like, you should never really be advancing into people as Soldier unless you have a really, really good reason to do so. Because this is true of all heroes, where you're basically trying to operate at the absolute maximum of your effective range, right? Because, like, someone like Soldier has a very long effective range. There are very few heroes that can actually threaten him, right? Because the only people who have a longer range than Soldier are snipers, right? So, and you can just, like, avoid line of sight and things like that, right? Those are the only people who can fight Soldier, like, on equal terms, is, like, another soldier or a sniper. McCree can if the setup is correct, but, like, the idea is you operate at Soldier's a maximum effective range, and you just can't be contested by a lot of people. And then if you're on high ground as well, you eliminate more people, because not only do they have to be long enough range to shoot you, if they aren't long enough range, they have to be able to get up to you. Because if it's like Tracer, you know, she can get up to you, but if you're on high ground, that's more difficult, right? So the idea is you sit really far away, and people have to dive on you. But then, you can put Biotic Field down and fight certain people diving on you. Or you can just use Sprint and run away, because Sprint is a surprisingly good movement ability for how mundane it is. But, like, you never really want to be advancing into Soldier as a Soldier, because that doesn't give you anything, right? Like, you being closer to the person doesn't make you do more damage. It makes the person easier to hit, but that's not a good enough reason. You should just be able to hit them from further away. Like, you advancing into them gives you nothing. You do not do more damage for being closer to them. But you enter other people's sphere of influence. Like, you can shoot a Roadhog from outside of Roadhog's zone of threat, right? Because your range is further than his hook range. But as soon as you cross that, like, if you're advancing into the Roadhog, suddenly you cross that line and you come into his zone of threat. There's no reason to do that, because you can kill Roadhog from a position where he cannot physically threaten you. That's why you want to operate at your hero's maximum effective range. Because then, certain people just can't contest you. A Tracer at long range cannot contest you, she has to close the gap. Roadhog can't contest you, he has to close the gap. That's the entire point of Soldier. You sit back on high ground, threaten people from really far away, and there's nothing they can do about it except dive on you, and then you have ways to defend yourself. And then your team factors into that as well. You never want to advance into people, because then you just give them the opportunity to kill you. Whereas, otherwise, you don't. And this is, like, this is true with all heroes, right? Like, the reason that Tracer can kill Reaper is because Tracer has a slightly longer effective range than Reaper does. Like, Reaper has to be point blank to the Tracer to kill her, right? And then has to actually still hit her as well. But, like, Tracer can hit Reaper from further away, because Reaper is kind of a big guy. And Tracer's gun is accurate enough that she can shoot Reaper from outside of his effective range. So Reaper should never be able to kill Tracer because she has a longer effective range, assuming she plays it correctly. Right? Like, it's true of all heroes. Like, you want to be in the maximum effective range so that you just remove certain threats, basically. And this is more true with Soldier than most other heroes, because he is such a long-range hero. There are not many heroes that can contest him in range alone, which is why you have to dive him. Right? Like, you have to get the Winston and the D.Va to go up there and contest him, because, like, even if you got a soldier, like, a soldier shooting up to another soldier on high ground, the soldier on low ground will not win that fight, because the soldier on high ground has a bigger advantage, right? So, even then, like, it just shrinks the pool even more of people that can contest you at that range. And that's the entire point of playing someone like Soldier. Threaten this huge space, extremely safe, extremely hard to dislodge. So, that's the thing that stands out the most in this game. Way too aggressive. So, thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful. Oh, I'm so angry now. Oh, goddamn. I hate the Overwatch community.